There's your parasitic draw, that's for sure. Well, somebody's been in here. Master electrician. Let's see if this little magnet will pull it out. There we go. Okay, so now we know this side super low is all the way forward, so we're back, we're like in high. And then this side all the way forward is diff lock. So there's that. Is a pinhole where the air's leaking through, so okay, so I patched this wire. I don't even know what it's for, and I'm trying to figure out like what is this, right? Obviously, it's probably something to do with the winch. So I'm hunting this just because it's black doesn't mean it's ground. So I'm pulling on this. It comes out right there, right? And so I'm pulling on that, and I notice this red one. And then I'm looking in here, because I'm trying to see where it goes over there, because it goes over there somewhere. And get you a shot. What's that? What the hell is that? Yeah, there's a parasitic draw. More like welding. There's your parasitic draw, that's for sure. We might have found the parasitic draw. I think this is for the switch, but does that go to a relay or what? So we still need to hunt this down before we just clack it onto a terminal. I just need to pull this plastic off to really see what's going on. But that's about to be fun. The other one looks the exact same. Because I can't even see where the main power wire goes. There's a relay right back here. Somebody's got a gorilla taped box jammed up in here. It's broken the plastic. I just need to see what's going on before I just patch some stuff and slap it back together. Okay, this is where we're at. I had to take this off because the plastic's so fragile. It was like hitting this and I didn't want to flex it. So here is what I'm seeing. This is the starter solenoid, and this is where they tapped their constant hot to the breaker box. And then we got this going on too. Relay for something, probably that starter solenoid. So, and then our black wire goes into that box, probably ground, assuming they wired it right. But yeah, we got a little bit of a little can of worms going on in here. I'm going to pull this off and peek inside of there, and then of course here is our mystery wire that goes into here. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I don't know if that's... I think this is one that's got the remote. I think that's what he said. So all this nonsense is for the remote. Okay, so I went ahead and I just got it kind of hooked up so I can see what works and doesn't work before I do anything. So key off. So the winch works, key off. That tells me that I think that this wire should, and I'll confirm this in a second by just disconnecting it, this wire is probably what should be tapped into switched ignition back behind here, which we can fix pretty quickly. And then, I don't know if you see this little bit of glare right there. That's the dash lights lighting up. I got the plug wire off the thing so we don't have any oil in it, but it turns over and this shoots sparks out. So this is 100% the starter relay. So probably get a fresh one of those. So now that I know what's going on with everything, this won't come out. I'll have to clip some zip ties. I don't know if I can get this in here any better than they did, or if it's just going to stay breaking the plastic more. But now that we have direction, everything works. We'll get this fixed, either replacing it or patching it with a butt connector. Try to relocate this. I'll show you how I tap into switched ignition up here, and then probably pull this off. He said he wanted to be able to go into diff lock no matter if it was, you know, in low, high, or super low. It's designed to only go super low with diff lock, and he says I don't want to be restricted like that. So we're going to take this apart and take that little safety pin out of there while it's all apart. Okay, this connector here is the key switch connector. So I just tapped into these two colorful wires, and the red one's connected now. We got a jumper going to ground. So there's our red one, and then if we switch this over to this one, we're at 0, key on, we're at 12. There's lights. So we need to tap into this orange one right here. Basically just snip some of this off, and then either shave that back or snip it, and then just connect it with like a butt connector or crimpless connector or something. Alright, as I start pulling on this wire, I thought, why is this wire the only one that's tight? Well, somebody's been in here. Master electrician. That's quite a bit of switched ignition. And in all honesty, if it's already like that, and that's been there a long time, we're probably just going to add that wire to it. Just go zoop, and then just put it back where we found it. Let's see what happens when we do this. Oh my goodness. So colorful. Yeah, we'll double check and make sure all of them are actually touching, and that's what we're going to do. So we're just going to add this to there and just put that back on there. It's not how I prefer to do it, but that is a monstrosity. That I don't think I got butt connectors that would fit all that in there. Alright, I put some solder on it, and as expected. Alright, we got this patched butt connector. Put that nut back on there. This had been patched at some point, and it's riding the frame, so I just cut some hose to keep it from rubbing through in the future. Relocated this. I don't know if that's going to work yet, but I think it will just fine. In the process of doing that, I noticed the fuel pump sitting here like this. You can see where that zip tie was, which is where the clamp should be. I don't know if this line is just too far gone. It's not chipping off, so we're going to just take and put that clamp on there. We're going to get this a little tighter. Alright, I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get this one bolt out of the way. So this will move a little easier. I don't really know how it's supposed to come out. We're gonna leave it like that for now. And there's 4 bolts. Alright, I guess we're taking this bracket off. Alright, I don't think I needed to take that bracket loose, but whatever. O-ring right there. I think I'm gonna have to pop these E-clips off to take this linkage off. There's probably some way to do that without these extra steps, but okay. So that's got the detent. Let's see if this little magnet will pull it out. There we go. Just that little rod down in there. And then we should be able to stick it back together. Here's another O-ring. So I need to go under this thing first, or this is going to be a struggle. There we go. So underneath that plate. Push our little O-ring in. Little O-ring. Okay, let's see now. So we're in, that's like high or something, and this is all the way forward. So I would say that that is working. Now all we gotta do is just put some bolts back in. Okay, so now we know this side super low is all the way forward, so we're back, we're like in high, and then this side all the way forward is diff lock. So there's that. I don't know if that's supposed to be forward or back, but it doesn't matter. So you can basically just do whatever you want now. I'm figuring out the light situation. Ignore this giant mess, but yeah, he wants like these for like low and this for high, but wants them all to power at the same time. And the problem is basically like down is low, and then the second notch is like lights on, right? So it defaults to on, but then when you do this to turn them on high, low gets turned off. So I think I have a way to bypass that with this gray wire. I'm pretty sure is what feeds like the tail light. So like this is like a constant on whenever this is at the second click. So we would just, I don't know which one of these was low, but we would just basically turn the low wire into this wire. And then when we did that, high, it would stay, low would stay on when we went to high. Well, in the process of checking stuff, we're not getting any lights back here. And then this is just how I'm kind of confirming that the light actually works. So the light works, but this plug is not getting power. So now we need to figure out, why is this plug not getting power? New problem. Okay, so instead of trying to like dig into all this again and figure out like why is that wire not getting power, we could easily run a wire back there like it's supposed to run off of this gray wire anyway. So what we need to do is, we got key on, 12 volts, it's on low, there's high, and then it's off. So if we switch this, now we have 12 volts, let's put it back on low, nothing, right? So we know that the red one is high, so we need to mark this yellow wire, put a piece of tape on it high, so we remember that. We're going to come back to that later. And then what we can do real quick is, let's tap into this gray one right here. So I believe this gray one is going to be our like constant. So there we have 12 volts, high, low, 12 volts, and then let's go back one click on the key switch. Right, so we lose power. So that is always on, basically, like it's power in like the dash lights, that's power in the tail light, like it's an always on for that second switch, or the second click for lights. So this gray wire is what we're going to tap into, and what we'll do is we'll just take a piece of speaker wire and we're going to run it back there to the tail light, and then we'll check the ground to see if the ground's good, and then tail light fixed, instead of worrying about, I don't know what's not right in here. It's pretty simple wire. It's this wire right here. I mean, it could even be, I don't even know what this is. Oh, that's like an accessory outlet. But yeah, this wire runs right here. I mean, it's pretty simple, but then it's going to get up in here and it's going to be like a mess. So instead of worrying about that, we'll just run a new wire, no big deal. And then we're going to run a wire, 2 wires basically. Then we'll run 1 wire to the low beams, and then these will be our low beams, and then we'll tap into the high beam off of here, and then that way whenever the key's on the second click, these are on. If they even work. Oh, there's like nuts in there. And then you flip this on, these stay on, bam, light bar also. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so here's our mess. This was the wire we decided to tap into. So tapped into it just to give myself room to work, and then wide off, and then 1 Y goes back here. This is all, everything's temporary for now. And then the other Y comes off here, and it Y's off again. Here's 1 low beam, and then here's the other low beam, and then these are our grounds. Just basically, was it 4 wires, 3 wires, and then right here was our high beam. So I put barrel connectors on everything, and so with it like this, we do key on, low. So we got low beams that are super, super bright. We have a tail light now. And then when we flip this, we got a high beam and both low beams still. It is bright, isn't it? So that is all working how he wanted it to. And all we need to do is heat shrink, tape, squish some of these together because they're made in China and they're not very tight. And then we're going to actually leave this on low with probably a trickle charger on here. That way we're pumping like good voltage through this wire. And we're going to see if this gets hot. Because, I mean, that's not the biggest wire. Like, it's probably the same as this, which is probably, I'm going to say like 18 gauge. I don't even think it's 16 gauge. And we're going to leave that for like multiple hours and make sure that doesn't get too hot. If it gets too hot, if I think it's like getting hot, you know, you can't hardly touch it, it's getting soft, then what we're going to do is we are going to snip it right here. And then we're going to run this to a relay. And then we got everything right here to do a relay, real simple. And then from the relay, we'll run it back into this, right? So then this will basically power a relay. And then the relay will power, you know, we'll give power to the relay from here. And instead of it pulling through this little tiny wire, we'll give it thick wire, because all this stuff is much, much thicker. This is like 14 gauge. And then that won't be a problem anymore. So, we've got a backup plan if the main plan doesn't work. Okay, it's probably been like an hour, and I've actually kind of skewed my own results because I left this thing sitting here so close to this that it's got like all this stuff warm over here. So like that cluster is basically 90. And then if we go down here to the one that has that wire in it, it's the same. But if we come down here, like on the wire, it says it's like 81, 82. Looks like 81. Come over here, we're 80 on that. So it may be 1 degree warmer on that. And then like the plastic over here, we're at 77. So the wire is like 3 or 4 degrees warmer than just ambient temperature. Here's what I'm doing with the headlights. So I'll put that one there, kind of like mock it up. And then this one's here. So the headlight is pretty close to the same size, where we just have, you know, a little bit of gap we need to take up. So I took the ends off of here and just drilled a hole, and then I got a bolt and a nut and some silicone to keep it from leaking if it wants to leak. And then what we're probably going to do is just put a slit in this, or just slice that down to where we can take these, because I'm probably not going to be able to fish one side in there, and then just cut a slit in it to where it'll slide down, and then we'll just tighten it down, shim it up with some washers, and clamp it down. Those turned out okay. Just pried it apart a little bit, but they're sitting in there mostly square. And that'll mount right back up where it was originally. Going to be the exact same height for the cutouts. Sweet. Well, fuck. Well, fuck. This is the neutral. This is the gear selector switch. And this plugs into this, actually. So we have both of these. We're just going to swap them. I don't have all this stuff back together yet. We're just going to swap them, though, because they're here and they're easy to get to. So I already kind of cleaned this one up a little bit. I'll get this one cleaned off too, and then get them swapped out. Okay, so it took me longer than I want to admit to get to this point. At least a solid 15 minutes of like probing wires and kind of being confused. So the neutral and reverse lights still aren't working. Okay, we got the new sensors. Back probe this, back probe in front of this connector here. We got red and blue and black and blue, right? Black's going to be ground, red's going to be hot. And everything is grounded when in neutral. Only when in neutral, everything's grounded. You take it out of gear and then it's like open circuit. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. I found a diagram that is for the wrong year. I can't find the proper year. And just kind of hunting this down, we have hot going to starter relay. And then from starter relay, we have yellow blue, or might be yellow black, going to neutral relay. Well, on this, we only have one relay, unless something else is tucked up in there. So this is what I thought was the starter relay, because we would hit the button and we could see this arcing. But that could be because this is shorted out, because these wires are actually match up closer to this neutral relay. Because it says the starter relay only has 3 wires. Solid red, yellow black, and then brown and white maybe. And we definitely have 4 wires in here. Okay, and we have an orange, and then we have the yellow black, and a green and yellow, which is what we're supposed to have on the neutral relay. So, orange is hot. Orange is at the key, orange is at the engine stop switch, orange is at both of the lights. So we're checking orange for power. We're not getting any power at orange. And I'm looking in here a little bit closer, and you can see this connector is basically where it kind of splits off and feeds these lights. You see any orange wire, particularly right there where the empty hole is? So what's going on with that? Where's the power wire? So what I have here is just basically probed into that orange wire, which allegedly is supposed to feed all this, and then probed into this, and this is what we get. Ta-da! So where the hell did the orange wire go, right? The same place, obviously, that the taillight wire went. I don't know what's going on up in there, but yeah, maybe I don't want to know what's going on in there. So what we can do is we should, I haven't even tested this yet, be able to put this in reverse. Yep, look at that. It's not staying in reverse. I think I need to roll it or something, but I can't really do that right now. But there it is, it's lit up. And then there's our neutral. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and undo everything that's been done, and then these aren't really bolted down, but I would need to take the battery out and all this that I'm not really situated with yet, but it's closer than if I removed it. We're gonna take and we're gonna tap into this orange wire down here, and then we're just gonna run a wire up and we're gonna tap into it like right here. Right? Problem solved. No need to try to, just like this one, it's the same concept as this one. Instead of trying to figure out what went wrong, it doesn't matter what went wrong. All we need to do is fix the problem. And there's more than one way to do that. So this is how we're going to do that. So now we have another problem resolved and we can move on. The owner said if it works, let's just skip it. So we're going to take this little piece of PVC and then we're just going to wrap some tape around it. Alright, if you're afraid of the dark, then this is what you need. Bam! That's pretty bright, isn't it? That's definitely bright. That is like absurd. It's crazy, crazy bright. The owner's going to pick up these wheels. He's got 3 other tires to match this one. But this had a broken valve stem when he brought it to me. I wanted to show off my custom valve stem. Here we go. I guess it doesn't hold air as good as I thought it did. Well, he got himself a new valve stem and got the matching tires now, but I noticed one looked a little puny. So this is the side the guy broke the bead loose and then fished a valve stem in through. And there's the back side. So this is the back side. So basically just ugly. It looked like he used a little bit of bead sealer on this side. You can see it. But I mean, you just slap that shit on flaky rust. What do you expect? So we're going to do a little zip and see if it seats or not, or seals rather. And if it doesn't, we'll break it loose again and we'll put some like urethane on it or some silicone or something. I don't have high hopes for this. See all these lumps? It's as if somebody had this tire off the rim and then just like beat the hell out of it for whatever reason. Yeah, it's got a bunch of weird lumps right there. So, and it's flinging crap everywhere. I'm not really dressed appropriately to be doing all this, so it's always something, complicate something. Okay, so I'm using this to get this inner edge that you can barely see. Well, we went from like everywhere to 2 spots. So that ain't bad. I guess we'll pop it loose again. We'll mark those 2 spots, pop it loose again, see if it's something we can doctor up, and then get some bead sealer, or urethane, or silicone, slap it in there. This is the side the guy popped loose to replace the valve stem, which we've already pulled out and salvaged, and he's slapped bead sealer on this. Could you not just hit it with compressed air or brush or anything? You lazy mother. So the reason why we are doing this, could you hear that? Is these were our spots where we were leaking, right? So we were going to inspect that. But if we look closer, check that out. So those are pressure release holes for whenever they weld this. They roll it and then they weld it. And that's where it was leaking from. So what's going on is right here where they've rolled it, they've welded it and then probably turned it on like a lathe to smooth it out. Somewhere in here is a pinhole leading inside of this cavity because it's hollow there. And here you can see on this side there's 2 of them. Oh look, there's 2 of them here too. It's just one's packed full of mud. So most likely somewhere right around here on these big dents is a pinhole where the air's leaking through. So he's got a new rim coming. So we'll get this tire cleaned up. You can kind of see how good of a job I did on this side with it on the rim. But now we have better access. We'll be able to get all this off. And then you can see the guy that owns a tire shop, how good of a job he did. Got a new rim. It looks pretty good. Minus them trying to commit biological warfare. There's all that mold on it. That is all mold. I'm gonna try to spray that off. That's a problem. Well, I forgot to hit record before I put this tire on, but I'll get you the money shot of the bead seating and maybe this bead sealer flying everywhere. Is that it? Well, that wasn't fun at all. Everything's boring. No leaks. Alright, so now it's freed up. I don't know if it was this. A little crusty in there. Woo! Well, I guess that wasn't too exciting. Just a bunch of mud in there packed in, making it not work. Alright, here's where we're at. We're close to a startup. Got the front end all buttoned up. We got the tire on, the brake fixed. Check this out though. This. That, and then you can just slide it in to lock it, flip your little clip back over and put something flat there. Isn't that awesome? 1987. Here we are in 2025 and we just are hoping that the floorboard doesn't get a hole punctured through it with a stick. Okay, so we are at a stage where we got some oil in it. Doesn't have a dipstick, it's got 2 lines. You just fill it until it ends up in there. You put it back here. It was 3-something quarts, I'm pretty sure. I just kept pouring it in until I saw it. Check these tires out though, like, don't that look crazy? Look how big them things are. It's pretty cool. They're 12.5 wide. They're 25 by 12.5. So with this on here, we can see that our reverse works. It just had to be rolled. We got like a little fresh piece of fuel line. There was like a drain. There's like a crank vent that goes in right here, and then there's like a little cavity inside of this air box where then this comes out. This is me, a little custom tube. It comes out, and I guess it's supposed to be like an oil catch, but then there's a separate drain right here. That's for the bottom of the air box. So I put a piece of fuel line on that, and we got a couple little various pieces of line, but we're in a state where we're gonna try to start it up. It is super hot outside, and we got the air conditioner on. We're not gonna drag the ventilation over. I can't get my ventilation hooked up on this one very good anyway, the design of it. This does have a fuel pump, mechanical fuel pump, so a vacuum actuated fuel pump, and it's not primed. So this might take a minute to get it to turn over. So we are, make sure the throttle's not sticking. We're gonna do full choke, and then we're gonna crank it for a minute and see what happens. I got the coil boot back on, so I think everything is ready for it to potentially fire up. Let that starter rest for a second. Okay, I made a little oopsie. I didn't have this, it's a vacuum line, so a lot of times it feeds the pump off of the intake boot, but this one's feeding it off the carburetor right here. That's just air and straight line all the way through. So, whoopsie daisy. All right, we ought to be priming up now. There we go, now we can see we're starting to get a little gas in here. Nice. I'm gonna turn that idle up a little bit again. Full choke. Turn the idle up a little more. Full choke. Let's take the choke off and try. Okay, let's turn the idle up more. Let's do like 2 turns. Let's turn the idle up even more. Oh, there's no choke. Check the gears real quick. Turn the idle down a little bit. exhaust. Okay, it runs. It's good. We'll, yes, smoke is burning off the oil and stuff. We're gonna do that a different time when either I haven't already cooled this place down, because it's like 98 outside or something crazy. That's why I have this boxed in, is so the air conditioner works better, quicker. But the next time you see this, we're gonna button up a couple things here. We got, this piece was missing. We got one of those. We're just gonna button up some of the plastics, not the back though. We're gonna try to clean some of the stuff off of here. Like some of all this part doesn't matter too much, but like the ugliness of this engine, we're gonna leave the rear plastic off for now. So the next thing you might see is me pressure washing this thing. All right, we got it outside to wash it. Well, now we gotta wash extra, but everything's running good. It needs something tweaked with the carburetor. It's got, if you stab it too hard, it's got a flat spot, and if you try to just put like this much throttle in it, sometimes it wants to stumble. And then if you hold it at a certain RPM, it'll kind of be like, you know, up and down a little bit. So I'm on the throttle right now, and it's sputtering. So if I let off, nope, then it died. There's the spitting and sputtering at low RPM. But if you rev it, you'd never be able to tell it did that if you rev it, unless you're holding it at like, so it needs a little tweaking. I didn't bring anything out here. It's like 95 degrees, so we'll do that inside on the ventilation. So that was super low, all 5 gears. And then regular low, we probably get into about second or third. High, we're probably only going to get in second gear. You can't start this in gear either. What you doing, boy? Digging out a big mud hole? Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's a big one. How about we drive the monster truck four-wheeler through the hole?
No.
No?
Now?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I want to play too.
What?
I want to play in the mud.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Stay back over there. gosh. You get a little splashed?
No, and she's running that one. Look how deep that is.
That is a deep one, isn't it?
I say yours are bigger.
Oh, no, I don't think it is.
How deep do you think this is going to get?
Oh, that's a little baby one.
Yes. You can't see it.
That's a little baby one.
Yeah.
Look at that, it's floating.
Yeah. This one floated too.
Yeah.
Oh,
that one's a clean one. That one's all clean.
but that was a good story. Now you guys can see how deep it gets with this guy. Oh my gosh, look how deep that is.
That's a big old mud hole, isn't it?
Yep. Huge old moho.
That's like all the way over the hood.
Yes.
Are you peeling out with the tires, making it deeper?
This could be the deepest wall.
Okay, here is what we're going to be cleaning off. Basically the dust that's stuck to like the sweated oil for 30 years. And obviously we'll get some of the mud off there too. But like that. I'm going to try to get all this off. No more yellow duct tape, and we plastic welded, hot stapled all the cracks. Some of them turned out better than others. Oh, there's a new one. I hope not. Alright, so these plastics are really bad, not just the brakes, but like the top layer is cracked. Like everything is cracked. Alright, so you can kind of see that red, and then we go into pink. So normally I would recommend just dry buffing, right? But those are too far gone to dry buff, or, you know, like dry buff, boiled linseed oil, and paint thinner, like a 30-70 mix, or just like WD-40, or, you know, like SC1 or something expensive. But, and I'm not a fan of like torching plastics. But these are what actually need torched because of the state that they're in. So basically, I did this little strip right here till about right there. So basically, we just need to do that like all over. Alright, so here's the next step of the process. Way more red, but you can see some of these spots like it melted. This was tricky. I should have did this before I put it on. This one I was able to take off, and I just took it in the other room and hit it with the grass burner, like big old blowtorch. So this one was pretty easy to do. I think I kind of screwed myself, particularly in like this spot where it's melted the dirt into the cracks, and I'm not going to be able to clean it really good. But that was in there so deep anyway that I think it would have had to been like sanded. You would have had to sand it down and then stair step your way up, and we're not doing all that. So next stop, we're going to just try some WD-40 and see what it looks like after that. Okay, actually, I don't think we're going to do the WD-40, at least not as a first step. We're going to do a dry buff with this. See how shiny that makes it? So we're going to do that real quick, and then we might wipe it down with WD-40. I know it's a good look, but we're going to change it up. I got this guy here. At least it's got some stitching. It's not pre-formed or anything, so might be a little bit of a struggle. But we need to do a lot of staple removal.
What are you doing?
We're putting a new seat cover on.
Why you tell us keep cover up and I do it like that and then I do it in circles.
Okay, before I get too picky about these spots, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go put it on real quick, because it goes in the back and then it clips down. And so if it clips down and it pulls this like that, then like that's, you know, other than this little wrinkle, like that's good enough, right? But if it scrunches it like this, then we got more work to do. So it doesn't really change. So we got a little more work to do. looks pretty good. Alright, we might have figured out the carburetor issue. We had this little baggie that had, well, it didn't have the needle, but it had like the clip, the E-clip for the needle, and that silver piece in there that's like a retainer, and it had an O-ring, and I couldn't really figure out where the O-ring went because it's not on the diagram, but I think it needs to go right here, because whenever this goes on here with no O-ring or anything, it's just a metal on metal seat, and it's letting a little bit of air suck by. So we're gonna give that a try and see what happens. Alright, let me show you how I fixed that stumble. So here's your pilot jet, right? None of these carburetors are for that. But then we have a couple pieces of wire here. 0.33 on that piece, 0.35 on that piece. So what I use these for, I mean, you can use them to poke through and clean, you know, holes out and stuff. But basically on that other jet, was 22.5, okay? And that number is a flow rate. Just like on this one says 45. Don't know if you can actually see that. But I have scratched on here 65, which means that that 45 is actually 0.65 internal hole diameter. And so this 22.5 is basically 0.4. It was somewhere around 0.4. Because the smallest bit that I have in here, I don't know if I'm getting the actual smallest one out, but the smallest one I have in here is 0.42. This one's pretty tiny. I'll pull this one out. So, you see how small that is? Super small. And then you use this. Yep, there's the smallest one, 0.42. So what I did is you chuck it up in this, and then you work that in there, right? And then if it doesn't fit, obviously the hole is smaller than 0.42. So it basically didn't fit, but it took like one twist to break through. So like I'm guesstimating that this 22.5 was probably around 0.4. So what I end up doing is I have one in here that's 0.48. We took this to 0.48. So what we probably did was turn this into the equivalent of a, if we like double this, we'd be at 45, right? So if we double it and then we just minus 0.05, then that means that this one would probably have been like a 27, right? Ish, 26, 27. So we turn this into a 27 flow rate jet, which of course translates into 0.48 millimeters internal diameter. So that's kind of like the weird math with the jets. When you get to a bigger jets, you know, like you got a main jet, and these say, no, can't even read that one, but like let's say it's like says it's like a 140, that one says 120. If I dug out a 1.2 out of here, it would fit in there pretty much perfectly. So like there's some kind of formula with the flow rate where once you get the hole opens up so big that it's pretty much 1-for-1 on Mikuni. And on the Keihin, however you pronounce it, their numbers are crazy. Like this number, like this 120 main jet would be like 300 or something on theirs. So you can only do that with the Mikunis. But that's what we did to fix that stumble. Is I basically bored out the pilot jet, fed it more fuel, and Did not touch the air fuel screw. I'm not even sure where it's at. I didn't touch anything. I just basically pulled the bottom off the carb, pulled this out, kind of gauged of how big the hole was, and then bored the hole out, 10 to 15% ish. So I'll show you real quick how I actually diagnosed that. Okay, so the way I diagnosed this is basically we had like a stumble, kind of a dead spot, like right off of idle. I'm talking like, I don't even know, 1/32 of an inch, right? So I would hold it in that spot, right, and get it kind of just pop, 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 like just not revving, and just feels like, it sounds like it's loading up, but not revving. Hold it in that spot, and then slowly turn the choke on. All right, so you slowly turn the choke on. And so what that's doing is that's, adding gas / restricting air. So if the problem, gets better and it goes away, then you have too much air and not enough gas, right? And then if the problem gets worse or doesn't change, that's either particularly not, potentially not related to air fuel mixture, or it's already too rich. So that's kind of how I figured out that we needed to go more gas, less air. So we're gonna take it for a little test drive before we give this one back. All right, so this is an absolute cold start. Of course, I mean, it's like 90 degrees here, so it's not really that cold. But yeah, no choke, and let's see. Right away, and then no stumble.